Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Welcome. Rabbi Isai is starting a brand new parak. So if you're new to Zevachim, it's been a geschmacker ride so far. Some of today's daf easy because very, very familiar. I'll show you the chart. And okay, we're going to do it 3-4 times in a row. Easy stuff. Kol Zevachim, all korbanos shekiblu daman zar. We know there's 4 avodas: the shchita, kabbalah, hilach, zrika. The first avodah, shchita, we're not talking about. We know that a Yisrael could do shchita. That's not a problem. But everything past the shchita is problematic with the Yisrael. And then we have a whole list of people that ruin it, completely ruin it. So number 1 on the list is a zar, a Yisrael. Oynein, somebody who lost a close relative before the kfura. Tvil Yom means that he went to the mikvah before shkia. He has to still wait until shkia, until tzitzik chavim, until it's nighttime, that he could be completely tahar. So, Tvil Yom Mechusar Kippurim that do kabbalas adam, hoylach, zrika, they ruin it. The carbon is gone. Or Mechusar Begadim, a kohen who has to wear the four garments, the 8 garments if he's a kohen gadol, he's missing something, pasul. Shlei rochatz yadayim v'raglayim. We know that in the Beis Hamikdash they had something called a kiyar, and they would wash their hands and their feet. If you don't wash your hands and your feet, no good. Today, tefillah, people wash their hands before they daven, based on the korbanos in the Beis Hamikdash. Ariel, a Jew who doesn't have a bris milah. Rashi says even a Jew who has a really good excuse because his 2 brothers died from a bris, so he's not supposed to have a bris. Nevertheless, he ruins the avodah. Tamei, a person who's tamei. Yoshev, a person who sits. If a person stands on top of different vessels, in other words, now we're talking about hilchas chatzitza. Your feet have to be straight, flat on the Beis Hamikdash floor. So you're not allowed to have a chatzitza or we have oimel lagav behema also. In case you want to know what oimel lagav behema means. So because these are all chatzitzas, he's not on the floor. Agabe ragli b'chaveroi, if he's on the feet of his friend, he's standing on his friend's feet. The floor is a little cold, so he decided to stand on his friend's feet. Obviously, they're not wearing shoes. Pasal, all these things make the avodah pasal. Kiba b'smal pasal. The Tanakama holds if you received the blood while you're doing it in your left hand, you did the zrika with your left hand, it's pasal. Reb Shimon says it's kosher. Zar min Olam. How do you know that Yisrael makes the avodah pasal? The Tani Levi, Daber Larin Velbano Vinazru Mikachi Bnei Yisrael. This is referring to a kohen who's tamei. So it says they should separate themselves from Kache Bnei Yisrael. The Gemara does a classic process of elimination. If you were to pause for a second and say, what does Bnei Yisrael mean? Bnei Yisrael could either mean Bnei Yisrael, the sons of Israel, rather than the daughters. It's coming to exclude women. It could mean Bnei Yisrael and not Goyim. That's another thing. And the Gemara says those 2 things are not even it. It's something completely different. I'm learning it in a very different way than we ever learned. From these words, that when you're tamei, you shouldn't perform the avodah. But it comes to exclude, but only for Bnei Yisrael. But for others, you could do the avodah. What does that mean? Now, in the process of elimination, we have to go through the ones that it's not, and then we'll get to what it is. What? You can say that a woman who brings a carbon, the kohen could perform the avodah. What? Is a woman different? Her carbon could be brought, but Tuma, no way. So maybe Bnei Yisrael means that a carbon of a non-Jew could be brought by a kohen who's tamei. So he says, Hashtot tzitz le'miratza. We know the kohen gadol wore something called the tzitz. It doesn't help the tuma of a guy's carbon. It doesn't help the tumah whether it's shoygig umezid of the guy. So you're allowed to do it l'chatchila. You're allowed to shecht a guy's carbon when you are tummy. No way. So what's the pshat? V'nazru mikachi. You have to learn the pasuk a little differently. It says in the pasuk, V'nazru mikachi b'nei Yisrael. What we're going to do is chop the pasuk. V'nazru mikachi, period, comma. V'nazru mikachi means that the kohen who's tamei must remove himself from kachim and not do the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. And then it says another halacha, b'nei Yisrael v'lo yichalalu, that if it's a regular Yisrael guy, the Yisraels of the world, us peasants, we cannot perform the avodah. B'nei Yisrael, you guys, v'lo yichalalu, don't be mechal, don't passel the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, so that's one way. The Rabbi Shmuel Tana. Rabbi Shmuel says, so now we have the classic that we've seen many times already in the Masechta, and now we're just getting used to it. It's the same exact thing over and over. He says like this. Here, so we have a few psukim here. If a kohen has a mum, he's not allowed to go and perform that avodah. And it says a pasuk afterwards, he continues eating kachim. Just it says afterwards, the pasuk Chav Gimel, kimum boy v'lo yechalal. It's mikdash. In other words, if he performs the avodah, he's mechalal, he ruins it. He's allowed to eat kachim. So Gemara says a very simple kavachimer. If a Baal Mum is permitted to eat the kachim, if he's a kohen that has a blemish, he doesn't have an arm, he's permitted to eat from, let's say, a chatas, a kachim, imavad chilal yet, if he performed the avodah, it's ruined. Zor she'nei oichel. So Yisrael, who's not permitted to eat, eridin shim avad chilal. So certainly, if he performed the avodah, he ruined it. He's not allowed to eat kachim at all. So if he does the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, he ruined the avodah. So the Gemara, so let me just show you this thing. This is what we're using. This is the standard chart. First of all, here are the different characters that we're using today. Zar is a Yisrael. All the way on the right, a Yisrael. Baal Mum, he has a problem with his leg. Tamei, he's holding a dead rat. Oinain, he just lost a loved one. He has the kriya, he's not in a good mood. And Yoshev. So the Gemara says, very simple, we're trying to figure out, how do we know that a Yisrael, if he performs the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, he ruins it. We're going to learn it from we have a lot of people we can learn it from in the Mishnah. We have Zar, Einan, Tfil Yoim, Chuz Begadim, Ariel, Tamei, Yoshev. We have all these people. So let's start with Baal Mum. A Baal Mum, if he performs the avodah, apostle. So too, Yisrael. So the Gemara says, no, a Baal Mum has something special. Excuse me. Just like a Baal Mum, a human being that has a mum, he cannot do the avodah. So too, an animal who has a mum, you cannot bring it as a carbon. So this mum thing, it goes on all, I don't want to use the word societies, what's the word? In all categories, it goes from humans all the way to animals. It's a very, very powerful thing, this mum. So it's karev kemakrev, it has a chasar. In the first parak, we did this a number of times in all sorts of formats. It's the same thing over and over, so it's pretty easy to comprehend. So Gemara says, okay, so I'm going to learn from Tamei. It's another thing in the Mishnah. That what if a person who's Tamei, he touched a dead rat, he did a CPR on a mouse, he's not allowed to perform the avodah. If he performs the avodah, it makes it possible. So too Yisrael. He says, oh, but Tamei has something special to it. It's metame. He has the power to make other things Tamei. So now what do we do, Rabbi Isai? What do we do now? We take the two and we learn from it one halach. We take the two things, it goes around in a circle, then we say, okay, but a Baal Mum cannot make other people a Baal Mum or Tamei or whatever. Oh, but a Baal Mum is karev kemakrev. Okay, but Tamei. And it goes around in a circle. So let's take the two of them together and combine forces and learn one halach from it. That what a Yisrael should not be able to do the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. That's called the tzad shavish. And then what does the Gemara always do? Pircha. No, that's afterwards. Right now, on the tzad shava, we have a pircha. What's the pircha? That the two things together, they have something special, or they cannot perform on a bama, on a private mizbeach in the backyard. Okay. So let's see inside. So we're holding over here. You want to learn from a Balmum, he has something special that even a carbon has, a mum ruins it. Tomei Yechiach. So we got the Tomei guy. But Tomei you can't learn from him because he could be Mitam other people. Balmum Yechiach. Balmum cannot passel other people. The Chazarah didn't goes around in a circle. Each one has a positive and negative. The common denominator is Shemuzorim, that the Torah tells them do not perform the avodah. V'mavdu, and you should know that if they do perform the avodah, chilalu, they ruin it. And that's what I'm trying to learn from the two of them together, that a Yisrael shu muzar v'mavad chilal, and if he performs the avodah, it ruins it. Minal and the muzar. How do you know that Yisrael was warned not to go into the Beis Hamikdash? Maybe Yinazru, like we darshened before. Yinazru mikache, stop. A new pasuk b'nei Yisrael v'lo yichalalu. So if he agrees, if the Beis Shmuel agree to that drasha that we learned 3 lines in the bottom of Amud Beis, that pasuk says, let's read the pasuk. They shouldn't passel it. If he's learning b'nei Yisrael v'lo yichalu, that Yisrael, not a Kohen, not a Levi, a Yisrael person who performs the avodah v'lo yichalu, says a mefurish pasuk. So why is the Beis Shmuel learning a kal v'chomer now? Has a mefurish pasuk. Obviously, he doesn't like that drasha. He doesn't like stopping in middle pasuk, breaking up a pasuk. Stop a brand new pasuk, but I don't like that drasha. I'm going with the kavachayim. I'm going with logic. So where did the Torah say to Yisrael, do not go into the Beis Hamikdash? There's another pasuk. It says in the pasuk, Yisrael should not get close. So it doesn't say what happens if he performs the avodah. It just says, don't go in there. When it was mutter to do the bama, these two people that we're talking about, this Tomei guy and the Balmum, cannot perform on a bama, but Yisrael could perform on a bama, so you can't learn from them. Says Gemara, you know what? You're right. Take a look at the chart now. We're going to take the tummy out of here. We're going to knock the tummy out, and we're going to use Einen. Einen, a person who loses his close relatives cannot perform that avodah. If he performs that avodah, it's possible. So too Yisrael. Says Gemara, Einen, she can also be meiser. Einen cannot eat meiser sheni. A Yisrael could eat meiser sheni. Ba'amum yichiach. So now we just remove tummy, we use Einen, we do the same exact thing. Go around in a circle. Ba'amum is karv kimakriv. The carbon also gets ruined with a mum. So Einen yichiach, but Einen cannot eat meiser, but a Ba'amum could eat meiser. It goes around in a circle, and then you just do the tzat shava again. Let's answer. Boom. So the bottom line is even the Einen cannot perform on a bama when it's mutter. Who told you that little secret that an Einen can't perform in the bama? We know that an Einen cannot perform in the Beis Hamikdash. That's true, but maybe on a bama he could. Who told you? Rav Mishai Omar. And this is gonna, if we know this one, we know 3 of them. So let's pay attention over here. How do I know? Again, what am I looking for? I'm looking to know, how do I know that a Yisrael who performs the Avodah? Bezer Hashem Mashiach is coming this week. And we go into the Beis Hamikdash. Could you and I perform the Avodah in the Beis Hamikdash? What happens if we do? What happens if we try to help out and we take the blood from here to there? We ruin it. How do I know? It's a simple kavachomer. From a person who's sitting, we know a kohen who sits on the ground. Of course he could eat korbanos, kachim. But if he performs that in a sitting state, he ruins it. Zar sheinu. But a Yisrael like us who cannot eat korbanos, and he didn't shemavad chilel, so certainly if he performs that he ruins it. It says in the pasuk v'amdu when you testify. It's something you can't learn from a Yoshev guy. A Yoshev guy has something special. He's pasal eidos. No, you didn't understand. I was not trying to bring from a regular sitting guy. I was trying to bring from a Talmud Chacham. A Yoshev Talmud Chacham. A Talmud Chacham is permitted to sit because of its chashivas. It overcomes the assay of that they have to stand v'amdu. So the Gemara says, but Malashem Yoshev became pasal eidos. You're right. You found one person called a Talmud Chacham that he's a minority, but the category is a category of people who are pasal le'edus if they sit. So Reb Misharish is not going to learn that. Shem Yoshev Loi Parach. He doesn't agree with that. He doesn't go with the category. At the end of the day, I have a person called Talmid Chacham who sits and he's not Pasal Parach. And even if you're going to say that he uses that as a pircha, Asiyah Mi Yoshev Muchadim Ahanach. Here we go. We're going to do Yoshev. Here, Yoshev. Together with the Balmum. And now we're going to do the whole thing all over again, which we don't have to do, but Yoshev cannot testify. So Balmum. But a Balmum was carved Kemakriv. But Yoshev Yechia, but Yoshev ain't made. And Bekitzer Chazarah din, and then we have it Tzad Shav. And we have it Tzad Shav at the end of the day. What are we going to say? But could we answer Lehudru Babama? The answer is no, we can't say Lehudru Babama. So we got to take that off. Now, if Yoshev would be Asur Babama, then I'm going to say Lehudru Babama. But I'm not going to say Lehudru Babama. So I'm taking that off. So why can't I say Lehudru Babama? How do I know that a Yoshev is permitted to perform by a Bama? When do you have to stand in front of Hashem to perform the Avodah? Lifnei Hashem, when it's in the Beis Hamikdash, V'loi, Lifnei Bama, not by a Bama. So we're going one by one. How do we know that a Oinen, somebody who Nebach lost a close relative, who goes into the Beis Hamikdash and performs the Avodah, how do we know that Avodah is possible? There is one person in the world who loses a close relative and performs the Avodah is kosher. Who is that? Kohen Gadol. Says the Gemara, Oinem and on the Chsiv. It says by the Kohen Gadol, the Kohen Gadol should not leave, and if he's in there, he performs the avodah. It doesn't become puzzle. So it's a simple diuk. But if somebody else, another Kohen, performs the avodah, it is puzzle. The Gemara is going to say in 25 seconds, hopefully, maybe more, that you could argue this. It's not so pasha that that's a good diuk. Maybe fakir, the Torah is saying the Kohen Gadol, you're so chashav, you better go home. So says the Torah, no, he doesn't go home. All the Kohanim for sure don't go home to perform the Avodah. But even the Kohen Gadol, who's so chashav, you'd say the Gadol Adar is the Kohen Gadol. Maybe he shouldn't perform the Avodah when he's in such a state? No. Kamashwan, he also should stay. Not that only him, even him. That's what the Gemara is going to say in a second. So we have to make a small akdama. The Gemara talks about this all over Shas. There's a very interesting conversation in the Torah. On the first day of Nisan, when they inaugurated the Mishkan, we know it's a very sad day. That's the day that Nadav and Avihu died. It's hard to understand what happened exactly. And one of the interesting things that happened is that the carbon chatas, which Rosh Chodesh, the first day of Nisan, they brought a carbon chatas. They burnt the carbon chatas. Moshe Rabbeinu is, why did you burn it? So there's a whole conversation in the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to say, did you burn it because of this? You probably burned it because of this. But that's not a good reason. Maybe you burned it because of this. So one of the Pesukim, it says, Rabbi Lazar Omar Ma'acha, hey Nekrivu, you think my sons, Elazar and Isamar, who survived the death of their brothers that day, what are they called? Oinen, you think they burnt it? Ani crafty. I burnt it. That's not the reason. In other words, had they burnt it because they were oinanim, that makes a lot of sense. He's saying, don't think they burnt it because they were oinanim, which is what you're supposed to do. Why are you supposed to do it? Because when an oinim performs the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, it's possible. So you see from here that it's possible. Ani crafty. Mechlal, the Akriv Shapir is through. If they, Elazar and Isamar would burn it, everybody would be okay with it. Why does he have to come onto this whole pasuk and diukim? He says, Kohen Gadol shouldn't, it does not make it possible, but a regular Kohen does make it possible. Says, does the Torah infer that? That's your diuk. In other words, I don't think it's a good diuk, because maybe the Kohen Gadol is so chashiv, we had to have him in, he should not perform the avodah, and everybody should. So how come Meheni Krivu? This whole pasuk with the Aaron HaKohen, it seems like Mefurish Aaron HaKohen saying, look, my sons, had they burnt it, they would have been right for burning it. Why? Because they're oinanim, but I burnt it. Why didn't they go with that? There's a question, why was it burned? Was it burned because they were aninos, or is it because it became tamei? No, he'll hold it became tamei. That's why they burnt it. The very Bishmal Tana, Asi b'kavachomer balmum. I know that a oinen cannot perform the avodah beis hamikdash from a balmum. Uma balmum. So now Daf Amud Beis mamish, like the rest of the sugya, like we had before, we had many times in the first parak. Ma balmum shoichel. A balmum that something's wrong with his foot, his arm. He's permitted to eat the karbanos imav achilel, but if he performed the avodah, it becomes possible. Oinen shein oichel. The same exact thing that we did on Amud Aleph when it came to the tamei. What was it? We're talking about tamei then.
Sorry.
Yisrael, correct. Thank you. Oinen shein oichel and din shem ovad chilel. So certainly a oinen who is not allowed to eat the karbanos, if he performs the avodah, it should be possible. I'm sure we have this. Do we need to do it? Let's do it. Why not? Here we go. Same thing all over again. Balmum, we'll learn from Balmum. No karev kemakriv. So I'm going to learn from Yisrael. Yisrael, I already know that he can't perform the avodah. What's the pirchan azar? Zorchia malazar shekein letakana. Unfortunately, as much as people want to go to the rabbi and become kohanim, and sometimes they're able to do it, they go to another city and they become kohanim. But a Yisrael cannot be a kohen. Eli takana. That's it. He's done. He's born in Yisrael. He's a Yisrael. Malazar shekein letakana. Balmum yerchiach. Balmum will prove, and we'll go around in a big circle. The Chazarah, the bottom line is, I'm learning from the Zar and from the Balmum that Oinen is Mechal, ruins the Avodah. Hey, Chamuzar, where does it say? Where does it say this whole idea that he's not allowed to go into Beis Hamikdash? You're going to take that pasuk min hamikdash liyetze. Chil b'gufei siv bei. Why are you the same exact source that we had before? Why do you have to come out to Gavachomer? You have a Mefurish pasuk. Ella mai, you don't learn from the Mefurish pasuk. Ella hein hikrivu. It just says, don't come close. Hey hikrivu kasava hein hikrivu v'kasava b'nei aninus nisrfa. He's going to learn from the pasuk that they did not. The reason why they burnt the carbon by Aaron is because of the aninos. And here's a new pircha, something new, meaning that Oinen one day is going to become nice and good, strong. He's going to get over, he's going to bury his mace, and he won't be an Oinen anymore. But not Yisrael. Tamei Yechiach. Where could a Tamei perform the avodah hutru? Right? No, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Oinen could do the avodah right now, be'aninos. Not that he's going to get good. Sorry. Bad. No. Hutru Mekala means, as Oinen, he could perform the avodah. When? When he's a Kohen Gadol. As a Tomei, he could perform the avodah right now, as a Tomei. When? No.
Carbon tzibur.
It's carbon tzibur. So, Mal Tomei, she came at Tamei. But still, nevertheless, you can't prove from it because the Tamei has the power to be Matama others. The Mum and the Zar could prove to you that they don't have the power to ruin it for others. The bottom line is that they are warned. As the Gemara, it's a Kohen Gadol b'Karban Yachid. I do have one interesting case of a Kohen Gadol by a Yachid that the Mum Zar don't have. So the Gemara, but shame Tumah mi ishtri. At the end of the day, the category of Tumah does become mutter when there's a Tumah b'tzibur. Rabbi Shashi Omar, okay, and now we're going to jump back to Rabbi Shashi, the same exact thing that he said in Amud Aleph. I don't need a pasuk. I don't need to learn the Tzad Shava. What?
Mi yoshev.
I have a kavachomer from a sitting person that he performs the avodah. Yoshev, Uma Yoshev Sha'oichel, a kohen who performs that, he could sit down in whatever he is, sitting down, he can eat the karbanos. Imavad, but if he's sitting and he performs the avodah, chilel, he ruins it. Oinen sheinu yoichel, oinen who does not eat the carbon in any situation, and it didn't shemavad chilel, certainly Again, we're trying to find the place for Einan. On Amud Aleph, we're looking for Yisrael. Same type of Kavachimer for Einan. Einan, who doesn't need the carbon, certainly, if he performs the Avodah, he should ruin it. Mali Yosef came Pasal Eidos. Another svar that we had on Amud Aleph, that a sitting person cannot perform Eidos. No, my idea was that a sitting person who happens to be a Talmid Chacham could sit when he does Eidos. Mali Shem Yosef, she came Pasal, but the category of a sitting person is Pasal Eidos. Shem Yosef Parach, he doesn't agree with that. And even if you hold that he does hold of that, that would look something like this if you want to see it. Oh, and then we get Tameh, Zar. No, this is something else. Because sir, you do Yosef together with a Tameh, let's say a Mum, Tameh Zar, and then you do the whole thing all over again, going around the circle, and Tzad Shavush Shabem, that Oinen is possible. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.